If you can have experiences of love, connection, compassion, self-connection, self-love, whether you're loving yourself or you're loving others, it's all the experience of love. Whether you're giving acts of service to others or acts of service to yourself, it is all an act of service. So when you are giving yourself that higher frequency of these positive emotions, these warmth, like even the gratitude and the appreciation that I spoke about earlier from the Heart Math Institute, these positive emotions have a positive ripple effect that washes through every
Mhm.
cell of your body.
Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable podcast. We're your hosts, Susan Robbins, certified epigenetic human performance coach,
And Kate King, licensed psychotherapist, board-certified art therapist, and award-winning author. Together, we bring two perspectives, two styles, and one shared passion for epigenetics.
On this podcast, we delve into topics such as environment, nutrition, fitness, mindset, social dynamics, and trauma as they pertain to epigenetic expression in a way that's relatable to everyone.
We recognize that everyone's needs are unique. There are no one-size-fits-all solutions for your mind, body, and heart. The true magic lies within you.
So if you're ready to create a radiant life through epigenetics and reclaim your authentic self, then buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Susan Robbins, certified epigenetic human performance coach, and my co-host is
Kate King, licensed psychotherapist, board-certified art therapist, and award-winning author.
So this is the place where we talk about everything, lifestyle and environment and how it relates to our genetic expression. So if you tuned in recently, we did a podcast on fear. It was fear and how fear can drive us. And we had mentioned at the end of that podcast that we were going to do one on the flip side on love. So this is more Kate's wheelhouse. I said, I'm not prepared. I feel like I'm not prepared like she is. So I'm going to let her start with this, run with this, kind of introduce how we're going to talk about this today, because this is definitely her wheelhouse. I mean, it is part mine as well in a different type of way. But I'm going to be like the opinion piece here today. And so I'm going to let her take the reins and roll with this, but get ready to discuss all things love today, because we're in such a world of hate and the fear and the hate, and it's just such a horrible way to live. And it affects every part of our mind, our body, our soul, and how we express epigenetically. And so that's why we decided to do this one on the flip side, because we do know, and this is a fact, that love is the highest vibrating frequency. And we need more of it with others and most of all with ourselves. So without further ado, here's my lovely co-host and fellow activator, Kate King. Take it away, my friend.
All right, thanks. Hey, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about love, which can totally be a triggering word all in of itself. I remember learning from the Heart Math Institute what they were doing brain-heart coherence, which I think I've touched on a couple of podcasts, but you might hear this from me throughout the podcast because it's such a cool body of work that's being researched and studied right now, how we can sync together our minds and our brains to actually change our physiology and our psychology. So what was interesting in the research for Heart Math is they found that when they told people to have an experience of love in their body and to feel it and imagine it and sense it, not everybody had a good experience because people have some really complicated attachments and tethers and traumas that are all related to love that it doesn't always feel so good. So Heart Math ended up going with gratitude and appreciation for their research. So I just want you to know if like up first right away you're like, ew, love. this doesn't feel great. This doesn't feel warm. I think that can be really normal. So I just invite you to try to be gentle with yourself as we talk about this and maybe just open your mind. Take the Buddhist psychology perspective of a beginner's mind with this and just see if there's some perspective on love that you can open yourself up to and feel just curious about, because I really do agree with Susan that love is the highest vibrational frequency when we are in an experience of love, whether it's love with another person or love with yourself. It has really measurable positive effects on the immune system, on your stress levels, your
Mhm.
heart rate, your emotions. It elevates anxiety and depression to a place that's healthy, de-escalates anxiety to a stable baseline. It can help us heal our trauma from a place of recognition, compassion. So it's a connection to that true self that so often I like to talk about in my work and in the work of internal family systems therapy. It's this self that has the ability and capacity to hold space for all the fractaled and dysfunctional aspects of us because it's coming from this grounded place of self-love. So, today I want to introduce you to a process that is related to self love. It's a writing process that you can do in your journals, and it was created by the author Elizabeth Gilbert. If you're not familiar with her, she wrote the famous Eat, Pray, Love book. She also wrote a great book called Big Magic about creativity, and she's just written so many amazing books. I'm a big fan of hers and really inspired by her work. And for, I think, about 20 years, she's been teaching this practice called Letters from Love. And it's her acronym is SOUL, which is Spirit of Unconditional Love. So the prompt is basically she writes to love. And love doesn't have to have any type of spiritual or religious affiliation. It's basically like the thing that we're plugged into that's bigger. So if you are a religious person, this might be God. If you're a spiritual person, this might be the universe. This could be higher self. And if you're just not sure, then you can just write to love as a positive and uplifting frequency that adores you and takes care of you and sees the best in you and in others. So the prompt that Elizabeth Gilbert first started out with her letters to love is she just writes in her journal, "Dear love, what would you have me know today?" And then without overthinking about it, without overanalyzing it, you just write back as love. And it can be directly to yourself, or you can have oftentimes she'll write like a endearment. I think her version of love often calls her honey head or like pumpkin face, like sweet little endearments like that. But sometimes that doesn't feel right for people. So you can just use your name. So love would write back and say, "Hey there. This is what I want you to know today. Here's what's going on in your life. And this is the way I see it from this really unconditional, loving presence." And as this directive developed over time, I think they found that having this "Dear love, what would you have me know today?" could become a little more specific if there's something you're grappling with in life. So, say you're working with a difficult relationship, you could say, "Dear love, what would you have me know today about this relationship?" Or if there's a lot of fear in your life or a lot of hatred in your experience, you could say, "Dear love, what would you have me know about fear and hate?" And then love responds. So this is a muscle that you get to practice. At first, it might feel awkward, weird, a little out there if you haven't done anything like this. And just like any other muscle, it takes a little practice and a little time to strengthen it and to get comfortable with it. But I think for most people, at the end of this writing in their journal, they just feel a little better. They feel a little bit of support coming from a higher self, coming from a deeper place, and it just buoys and elevates them. So, Susan, that's the directive.
Okay, so a couple questions.
Mhm.
So first of all, if you have somebody, first of all, that's not really, because I have clients that are like, I hate journaling. I
Mhm.
never know what to write. So what about the people that are going to get maybe, is this more of an intuitive type thing that people should be writing? Is it you just sit there until things pop in your head, uh, or I because I could see, could it be creating some stress for some people that would sit there and say, "I don't know what to write.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
have no idea." So how do you handle the ones like that? Because I can see for some that are maybe a little bit more tuned in
Mhm.
with their mind, that mind-body connection, whatever, like, just a little bit have more awareness, I guess, is a better word around things, have done some of the work already. But
Mhm.
for, say, like, a newbie, that this is, like, their first thing, be like, stare at the paper, right? Like me
Mhm.
trying to come up with podcasts on my own that I used to come up, I was like, "I don't know what to do." The what would you say to them to make them not apprehensive about trying to do this? Or, my for my Diplos out there, to not try to be perfect when they're doing it. Things have to sound exactly as they're supposed to sound. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, and I'm so glad you asked it. So, I think in general, for all things in the world, letters from love, everything, right, from religion and politics all the way to what you eat for breakfast, don't do anything that feels counter to your being. If something feels misaligned for you, if it's not a good fit, if it makes you uncomfortable, if it hurts you on some level, don't do it. You don't ever have to do anything. So if you're listening along and you're like, this sounds terrible, I don't want to do it, you do not have to at all. And it's possible that there might be a different version of self love that will resonate better with you. And I can talk about some other things besides this journaling prompt as well. This is just one of many ways to give yourself self love. And I think that Elizabeth Gilbert designed it to be a writing experience because she's a writer and it's so comfortable
Yeah.
for her. And this is based on her Substack page. So that's a writing social media off social media place where it's about writing. And so if writing calls to you and if you're an intuitive person, this directive could be really good. If you're not, and if this isn't feeling good, there are a lot of different ways to express. And I think me being an art therapist, I am all about expression, not just
I
through
was just gonna say that. Yeah.
so, not just through art, but if you are creative in an artistic way, you can create imagery that feels like love, that feels self loving. You can go into a magazine or a collage box and just choose 10 or 15 images that have that resonance of love. Whether there's colors or shapes, it doesn't have to always be realistic. You don't have to find a person holding hands with the love of their life, like lovingly gazing at each other on a beach. If you do find that and it resonates, great. But instead, you might find the image of a sunset, and that feels like love and warmth because the colors resonate, or the experience brings up a memory when you really felt love towards
Yeah.
yourself. So you can create something like that. You can also listen to music that feels really self supporting, really loving. You can have movements, you can stretch, you can dance, you can walk in nature. Love is more of a mindset than any directive or experience. So I invite you to lean into what feels the most loving and supportive for you. If going out and spending some time sitting by a lake feels really supportive and loving, go do that. You don't have to write. If sitting down with your art materials feels like an exploring kind of discovery way to dive into this, go for it. If the letters from love directive feels good, give it a shot. But basically, the bottom line here is that the way that we talk to ourselves matters. That affects our epigenetic expression. It affects us on every level of our being, from the physical to the emotional, energetic, psychological, spiritual. It is all impacted by our thoughts, our beliefs, and our self talk. So, when we were talking about fear and anxiety in our previous podcast, we were talking about how, like, marinating in that state for long periods of time can have a negative effect on your genetic expression,
Mhm.
on your mental health, on your physical health.
Huge.
This is the
Huge.
opposite. So, if you can have experiences of love, connection, compassion, self connection, self love, whether you're loving yourself or you're loving others, it's all the experience of love. Whether you're giving acts of service to others or acts of service to yourself, it is all an act of service. So, when you are giving yourself that higher frequency of these positive emotions, these warmth, like even the gratitude and the appreciation that I spoke about earlier from the Heart Math Institute, these positive emotions have a positive ripple effect that washes through every
Mhm.
cell of your body. And when you start to think more lovingly toward yourself and others, it stops being something that takes practice and it starts being more automatic because it starts to just be the way that you are and the way that you see yourself in the world. And like anything in life,
Yeah.
the practice I saw actually a really interesting I think it was a meme, maybe of just a quote recently, and it said something like, "The truth about everything is the more you practice something, the better you get, so be careful what you practice." And I loved it so much because here today, I am asking you to start practicing something that feels self loving, whether it's through writing or any other form, because the more you practice it, the better it will get and the more it will shape your life.
Have you heard about the 17 seconds
No, tell me.
where I just remember hearing it, and I can't remember if it was through Abraham Hicks. That's the one that sticks in my mind, where if you focus on something, which of course we want the focus to be positive, but focus on something joyful or that makes you happy for 17 seconds, that it can change everything
Mm,
for the rest of the day. It can change everything. 17 seconds doesn't sound long, but sit there for 17 seconds with the clock ticking, right? If you're in a foul mood or anxious or something, it seems like an eternity.
yeah,
Tick,
totally.
tick, tick, 17 times, right? But if you focus on, again, like the gratitude and appreciation, whether it's gratitude, appreciation, love, they're all higher vibrating than these other frequencies that are just so low vibrating, and we feel it.
Mhm.
Definitely feel it. The one thing I there's a couple things. So first, when you were talking about doing things that make you feel good, for say a guardian, it's that connection with their loved ones. So for them, couldn't you see that being an important thing to go to connect with someone, go spend quality time without the damn phones and just spend that quality time with someone that just brings out the best in you. Not a toxic person I'm trying to hold on to or something, but somebody that when you leave their presence, you feel better. You feel energized. They feel energized. It's that synergy that the two of you have. So I think that can be an important thing too. So it's not for everybody needing to do something by themselves. I think we have to cultivate things that are by ourselves that make us feel good. But for some, that social connection, that connection itself, is such an important part of their love because they're very giving and nurturing. But to allow someone to give that back to them too, and just have that connection that brings that out in them. But I ask people when I'm working with them, let's look at, especially when we're trying to change some habits, let's try to look at why you have this habit. Why are you going for this sugar at night? Why do you have this craving for this comfort food? What's around this? Change it with an action instead of going towards the food. Let's look at what it is. What time of day does this typically tend to have, day or night? And what's happening in your life at that time? Are you watching TV and you're getting all the subliminals coming off of there? For me, I love these cooking competition shows, and I'm going, "Oh my god, that would crush me to eat that, but it looks so good." And I think, "What do I have?" I don't need to eat. I don't want to eat, but it looks good. I can smell what they're cooking. You know what I mean? In my mind, it's so visual for me.
Yeah.
Uh, but looking at what are other things that you can do? What are activities? And so I'll ask, what's something that makes you feel good? What's something that brings you joy that you do? I don't know. And there's a lot of people that they truly have no idea what brings them joy anymore. So then you
Yeah.
can also go back to your childhood because for some, that's, there's there's childhood trauma, but there's also some happy childhoods. Or even if you've had a traumatic childhood, there's usually things that you can remember that were also pretty cool and fun.
There's probably
But what were
things
things?
too just from, like, last year, right? It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
all the
like
childhood, but, like, when was the
no,
last
but I'm
time
just
you were
saying, like
happy?
anything. If they can't think of anything in their, I haven't done anything like that in years.
Mhm.
Okay, what were things you enjoyed doing as a kid? I enjoyed dancing. Okay. What was it that you enjoyed about the dancing? It's the expression, that creativity expression that just allowed them to feel unbridled. Okay, so what about going and taking a dance class? Like, just think outside the box. You don't have to think about quote adult things, right?
Mm.
Um, listen to some live music. The types of music. When you're feeling down, do you listen to music that keeps you down? Do you put on every sad song that comes on? Somebody done somebody wrong songs? Or do you put songs on that pick you up? So I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but it may be also that connection.
Yeah,
But
totally.
have that freedom to explore what
Mhm.
brings you joy. You're an art therapist. I've I've have some clients that they were artistic as kids. They love to draw or they love to paint, and then they went to college, and then they had families, and then they had careers, and they got out of that part of them. We'll go
Mhm.
back and do you don't have to go to an art class, but just get out a sketchbook, start painting, to bring these things back that were before you learned how to be who you are currently, that were things that were part of your core.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can also think, specifically to your personality type, your body type, your temperament. The brain doesn't know the difference between what's happening in reality versus an imagined
Mm-mm.
like any time of imagination or memory. For the brain, it's all input, it's all the same. And so if you can remember a time where you felt love or connection, puppies are great for this. Babies are sometimes great for this, depending on how you feel about babies. But people,
Oh,
yeah, that's a mixed one. Puppies are more general. If you can just think about the last time someone did something nice for you that felt really warm, and you don't just think about what they did, but you remember how it felt in your
how you
body.
felt.
So here's the thing about love
Yeah.
is that love is an embodied experience. It's a somatic, it's a visceral, body-centered experience. Because if you think about love, it does go a certain length for you, but it doesn't go all the way unless you're including the sensation in the body. And usually love includes something like warmth or tingles or lightness. It could be in the heart space, it could be in the belly. Sometimes people feel love like in the back of their jaw or in their shoulders.
Intoxicating.
Mhm.
This love's
Right.
intoxicating. And
Yeah.
everything you've just described,
Yes. Yes. So
that's
if you
intoxication.
even if you can think about something from your recent past or your distant past, a moment where you felt that warmth. Who were you with? What were you doing? I just got home from a trip that I went on with my partner for our 15th anniversary, and there was a lot of warmth and a lot of joy there. And then when I came back, I was hit with the brick wall of reality, and it felt really different. And so as I was trying to work my way out of what felt heavy and negative, I was remembering, okay, so what on the trip felt warm and light and positive and love? Was it the experience of physical touch? Was the experience of deep conversation, feeling seen? Speaking of the phones, where I was in Europe, nobody was on their phones. They were sitting out on, like, the patio everywhere on sidewalks talking to each other. So there was
Being in the moment?
being in the moment,
Yeah.
something collective, like, who was I surrounded by? I saw a lot of art, which for me as an artist was really filling for my soul and very awe-inspiring. Things like awe and wonder have a huge ripple effect in the body. They elevate you to a new level. So remembering something, remembering someone or an experience where you felt that love and connection brings you right back there in your body, and then anchoring yourself there by inviting yourself to stay. If you are a writing person or a drawing person, create art while you're in that experience. And if you're not, maybe just close your eyes. Feel into that moment. Give yourself a couple of breaths into what it feels like. What does love feel like in this moment? And I also think it's important to mention love doesn't always feel joyful. There's different kinds of love that can feel like supportive or really soft and compassionate. Sometimes when people do inner child work or they're supporting someone who's going through a difficult time, the love that they exude isn't necessarily bright and shiny. Sometimes it's like a warm blanket. It's this, I'm here. I am with you. I see you. I love you. You're not alone. And so if you can give yourself that energy, if you're in a sad moment or a difficult experience, that sort of higher self that's just, I got you, I'm with you. That's love too. And then there's the flavor
Mhm.
of love that's joy. That's like, when I was a kid, I loved to dance and I love this type of music and it sparks my joy. So I invite you to really open your mind to how love can look and feel very different. And it's a very multidimensional experience and it's a very unique experience. Similar, if I said to you, "What color do you associate with love?" You might say blue, you might say red, you might say yellow. There is no right or wrong answer. I think it's important that you find what feels most resonant to you and you trust that and then
Mhm.
explore it a little more deeply in whatever way feels right for you.
Yeah, I love it. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think just psychobiologically, the frequency of love can change a lot of things. And so when you start to exercise that muscle, then you can start to build the reality that facilitates having more of that in your life. So if you realize,
Mhm.
oh, wow, when I'm with people who show up really authentically and I feel good after I see them, they're not overstimulating me or they're not asking so much of me. Right there, you're giving yourself a very clear distinction of
Yeah,
I love myself best when I have these types of people in my life, and so then it gives you the opportunity to purge and cleanse people from your life who are not that frequency.
because you feel it.
Mhm,
You definitely feel if you're into again, listen to your body. If you're feeling your heart rate goes up, not in a good way, your stomach coming up to your throat or your abdomen coming up, your heart rate increasing, just that kind of an anxious feeling when you enter a room with certain people.
mhm.
That's likely not ideal. Pay attention. It's probably not something you ate, or you probably don't need meds for that. It's paying attention to your surroundings
Yes.
because I've been in that situation and it is a very distinct feeling. And you notice the difference when you remove yourself. There's a peace. So I think if I can also equate for me love as peace.
Mhm,
Where we talked about fear and anxiety and all, it's very different. And when you learn to be able to sit with yourself, there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to just be by themselves in silence. And I've heard them tell me, I don't want to hear my thoughts. Why don't you want to hear your thoughts? You have to hear your thoughts, embrace them, to let them go. When you keep them suppressed, you're keeping that energy, which again is affecting you epigenetically. That can create inflammation in the body because it's creating stress, which leads to its primary cause for disease, right? And I think when you learn to sit with yourself, accept yourself, love yourself, whatnot, it does create this peace. And you'll feel the difference when you're around other people who either create that anxious, doesn't feel right feeling, and you never feel good after you leave them. We always want to leave people feeling better after our interactions. And learn to sit with that peace, feel what that feels like to you. And you'll want to naturally start gravitating towards the people and the things that make you feel that way. I have a
Abs
very, very small circle. I used to have a massive circle of people. It is so small now that I spend the majority of my time by myself. And it's a lot of it's out of choice. I do realize I need connection majorly, but it's who I choose with that connection. And yet I can have the same feeling with those people that bring me that peace and joy as I can when I go up to an alpine lake and I'm
mm,
sitting there. On the luckiest of days where my last several hikes, I've gotten to the peaks or to the lakes, and there has literally been nobody for 45 minutes. In Colorado, that doesn't happen. And I sit there and just go, "This is the epitome of peace.
mhm.
This feels like this person." So when you have somebody that feels like home to you, home, again, can either for some, it may not d evoke peaceful feelings, but you want it to, and you want those people that make you feel like you're home
Yeah.
and have that peace and just that love and peace, and again, you know it when you experience it,
Yeah.
and I challenge
I want it to
people
be
to experience that with themselves, feel that yourself
yeah.
so can recognize it when you're around people or places and go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much peace or how much joy this brings me, or how much this actually doesn't. And I've been doing it out of habit or just hanging with these people just because there's a history." There's a big difference,
Mhm.
and that affects you metabolically 100%.
And if you feel at home in your own body with your own self, that is the best company that you could ever keep because friendships will come and go. All relationships can pass like waves or like clouds in the sky, but you'll always be with yourself. And so, if there's one relationship that is worth investing in and trying to figure out how to experience love in, it's your relationship with yourself. And
Yeah.
all the different versions of yourself too, because through that internal family systems or parts psychology lens that I hold, we have all of our past selves that have gotten us to where we are today. A lot of them have incurred a lot of wounds and a lot of trauma and they need healing. There are future versions of ourselves that will look back on this today's self with compassion, hopefully, with love, with maybe gratitude, sometimes regret, anger, but we have all these different selves. And if we can befriend them and treat them all with love, that's how we start to have integration within our systems that can lead to the feeling of wholeness and of connection. And part of why I like the letters from love for people who are inclined to write is because it alters the way you talk to yourself. And our recent interview with Dr. Mario Martinez, he was talking
I was
about
thinking back to his too.
yeah, so he was talking about words and how powerful words are because we have symbolic and cultural associations with words. So if you're out in the world and you're talking to yourself negatively, and you say, "Ah, you're such an idiot. Why do you always do that? You're such a loser. Nobody likes you."
Stupid.
Right, you're creating a cascade of hormones and chemistry, neurotransmitters. Your entire body, your immune system, your psyche is responding to you in accordance with the words you choose. Whereas if you're out in the world and even if you goof up and you say, "Ah, it's no worries, we'll get it next time," or "Nice job trying," speaking to yourself as though you would speak to that little puppy that you're training or your baby. "It's okay, let's try again. I love you. You did so good." However you can talk to
Or
yourself
they don't learn.
right. However you talk to yourself with kindness then has a ripple effect that expands beyond there. And I remember Dr. Martinez was saying he measured this in people's saliva, and there was what is the gene for the immune system that you can measure in saliva? Do you remember it off the top of your head?
That's where we do saliva tests to do DNA. I can't
Yeah.
remember which one he talks to. Was it inflammation?
I can't remember, but remember he was saying that if if a waiter is waiting your table and you say thank you to the waiter and the waiter says, "You're welcome," and accepts the compliment, they have
Mhm,
positive increased immune response and their inflammation goes down.
mhm.
They have a positive in the body. But if the waiter responds and says, "Oh, no worries, no problem," they actually don't have that positive response. So the
Yeah,
words
yeah,
that we say to ourselves and also the words that we say to each other, they absorb and they have an effect that goes so far beyond what we can see and feel in the moment, and they set our genetic expression, they set our physical and our emotional experience of life simply based on our association of the word. So if you're speaking
yeah.
to yourself through writing, through letters from love, or through any other form of writing, or through art, or through the mountains, and you're using words and imagery to help create a more concrete experience of what feels good to your body, then you're allowing your body to attach these symbolic representations of high frequency and of positive experience with the usage of those words. And the letters from love are just very they're adoring, they're cherishing. It's the
Mm,
highest, most loving, unconditional presence for you from a higher person in your higher being in your life. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go to Elizabeth Gilbert's Substack, Letters from Love, and you can read these for free. She does one every Sunday. It
you
drops. And so you can read an example of this to know more of what I'm talking
d
about.
yeah, if you have a link, we can put that in the show notes too.
Yes, I absolutely will.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
so it's
that could
just
be helpful.
really it brings home the words that are loving that your body can then integrate and create that whole experience of embodied self-love.
And I think I don't wanna leave out the power of animals either. And it just it's so funny that he popped up, and it reminded me because he drives me crazy. Sam, my little terrorist. This cat, he'll be 5 in June. He didn't purr until he was 4. And all of a sudden last year, I was like, "My god, he's purring like a freight train." He's purring like crazy right now. And cat purrs, they said that frequency is also another one that is proven to bring calm.
Mm.
And it's so funny because he'll pop up in the living room or he pops up every time I do a podcast. Oh, now he's biting my leg. But, that purr, you just automatically it's like, "Ah, I get it." Like, for the first time, I was like, "Oh, I get it." It really is very calming.
Yeah,
Some people are dog people. There's your unconditional love as well. When you see you don't have to perform to get it, and you can just be you. Some horses I'd never really been a horse person because 'cause I'd never really been around them much, but a guy I knew, geez, 13 years ago, big horseman. So I took a horsemanship course and would go out, go to the barn and brush the horse. And again, you want to talk about bringing in peace through another being, like just feeling that. So that for a lot of people, I'm not talking like snakes. Oh, I don't know anybody finds peace by having a snake, but I guess there's people that do. But I think that's just another form of that connection that can be very peaceful just as you're sitting and just being calm or something might be going riding the horse, having that just that one-on-one, that connection that's just otherworldly for some people.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely, and
yeah.
there's a whole field of equine therapy where horses are
Oh,
used
yeah.
just because of that. I actually recently registered for a workshop for therapists and healing practitioners to do an equine therapy workshop for ourselves for just nervous system
Oh, how fun.
connection And I think it's exciting to be able to connect with animals that don't have the same ego structure as humans. They're just
Exactly.
needed, right? Like the relationship isn't performative. It's just a really simple, genuine being to being aliveness. And I think that's really incredibly healing for the horse
Yeah,
and for the human.
absolutely. It's the connection is for both.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
I think
if
it's
humans
important.
aren't your thing, I think it can also deepen human connections when you can learn to be you and just kind of let go, let flow with another being on this earth. And there was it was who was it? One of my favorite authors, Don Miguel Ruiz. He did the Four Agreements. It was either in the Four Agreements or the Mastery of Love, which is another one I highly, highly recommend that you read by Miguel Ruiz. His books are not long. They're actually they're small. They're not long reads and they're easy reads, but they're profound. And they said, we don't forgive humans when they do things. They piss us off. And we're like, I hate you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you for a while. But with an animal, we're like, they piss us off. And then, "But I still love you." Why do we not do that with humans?
Mm.
Right?
Like a
Why
level of
do we?
complexity. It becomes
Yeah.
I think it becomes entwined with ego states and with the levels
Substance.
of our psyche and responsibility for each other, codependency, relational trauma. We don't have that as much with animals. It's just more pure, more
No,
simple.
no. It is. It's pure and simple. Exactly. Really, really well put.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. I don't know. I think if we can start looking at others and looking at ourselves with forgiveness and looking for the love instead of punishing,
mhm,
not just other people but ourselves.
mm,
Uh, it's it's going to be a much happier life and a happier world when we
totally.
start to concentrate on that. And
And
hey, I'm not perfect. I admit I'm not perfect. Kate and I started this podcast. I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling it today.
nobody nobody's
I have
perfect.
things going on. So you run this one, and but we're talking about love, and my vibration has risen. And this is on 100 body battery. I woke up fully recovered, 98 sleep score. But the other thing is, it's crappy out. I threw the blinds open, and it's cloudy and gloomy, and it's so amazing how that affects energy.
Mhm.
So even though I woke up and told her I was having some funky dreams last night, but I still woke up in a good mood and stuff. But then since I opened the blinds, I'm like, clouds again. It's been rain the holiday weekend. And I'm a huge connector secondary. Huge. And connectors are the health type that's most affected by the seasonal affective, which is the weather. So I maintain like bright colors around me. So I think that can even play a part.
Sure.
Don't if you're affected by weather, don't freaking live in Seattle, right? Or Northern Oregon. Pick places where climate's gonna suit you. Pick sunnier climates where you're gonna be more exposed to that
Mhm.
than in a climate that's gonna drive you down. And when you're driven down like that just by the weather during the day, how's that gonna really create that love and peace for you? Again, it's just gonna create some internal struggle. So I just thought of it as a
Well, and if you
ugh.
don't have a lot of choice of where you live and you don't feel like your climate or environment is ideal for you, you have complete control over the environment that you live in your home, and maybe you have affirmations on your wall, maybe you choose brightly colored artwork, maybe there's certain music that you really put into your
Yeah.
environment regular, maybe there's a little fountain that you have in your home. Really take the time to create an environment that brings that warmth and that elevated frequency so that you can feel love. Because we don't always have the optimal conditions. We don't always have control over the external environment, but we do have control over our personal environment and our internal state, which is why I am always
Mhm.
advocating for the inner work because everything else, love is a choice.
Choice. I knew you were gonna say choice. Just say
And
it, choice.
sometimes
Yeah.
it can be really seductive to choose the lower frequencies, the more negative states, because they feel satisfying in their own way. You can collude with other people in a state of fear. There's belonging with hatred. Brene Brown said one of the strongest uniting forces is to have a common enemy, right? And
Oh, yeah.
that's a
We
choice.
see
And
that nowadays.
if you
Yeah.
choose if you choose to step out of that, and if you say, "I know that's really seductive, there might be belonging there, that might give me a dopamine hit, but really that's not a frequency of
It's
love."
not a frequency.
Instead, you choose to pick up one of Don Miguel Ruiz's books, or you go find a new artwork print online that has the colors and the frequency and the symbology that brings that love into your experience. You're making small choices that all amount to a larger life experience of love. And those will affect
Yeah.
your self-talk, they'll affect your thoughts. And remember, that your thoughts create your beliefs because your beliefs are just things you think about a lot. So, if your thoughts are starting to vibrate at that level of love and gratitude, then your beliefs will be grounded in love and gratitude. And then your body will be resonating on that level, and your immune system and your psyche and your energetic field will all have that resonance of whatever it is that you're thinking about, believing, and then bringing into your everyday life. So, I really want to empower you that love is not accidental. Love is not a state that people are in by accident for no reason. It's a place that people go to intentionally, and it doesn't require
Mhm.
the participation of others. You can go there by yourself. And if you're
Yep.
in a state of love by yourself or with your pet or with someone near you, your close friend or family member, you'll attract more of that because you're embodying it and experiencing it, and it grows from there.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome conversation today.
Yes. Should we ask our wrap-up question?
I knew that was coming. That's why I figured we'll wrap it, and I knew you were gonna ask, so go
You know
for it.
I
I'm
love
ready.
I love that question, and I love the structure of having our question at the end of everything. So so, Susan, what are you doing today to cultivate a radiant life through epigenetics?
Yeah, so for me as an activator, I know that I do well with higher intensity exercise. And now that I am actually sleeping, people know that have been watching me for months that I did not sleep. I am sleeping phenomenally well. I feel like a different person. And actually, injuries, like nagging things that I had, are so minimal at this point, almost gone. So I have a new CrossFit program, like kind to get back into some of those movements because there's being in shape and there's being in CrossFit shape, which allows me to be who I want to be athletically at any time. And so I'm starting that new program today. So I'm really it kicked my I dabbled last week and it crushed me. Not as bad as I thought, but I was wiped out for a couple days after. So that's gonna be my plan this week, and I'm excited to start that today with like workouts that I haven't been able to do because I've been too exhausted, too much stress and too much exhaustion. And that's a huge component for me as m- activity for an activator is actually the top priority. And so to be able to get to the activities that work well with my body composition and my strengths, I'm pumped. So yeah, that's gonna be good today with the crappy weather. So what about you, Miss Kate? What are you gonna do today to live a radiant life epigenetically?
So as I shared earlier, I'm still coming home from this lovely trip and remembering that I'm a mom and that I have the job and I have the things that I have to take care of in life. So I'm doing what we talked about today. I am intentionally choosing the practices, the thoughts, the behaviors that bring about gratitude and love. I'm writing myself a letter to love every day this week, and I'm writing gratitude practices. I'm making time for my creative process. I'm not just getting inundated by the work and the catch up from being away for a week. I'm actually carving out
Yeah.
time to to be creative. And also being an activator, I'm getting outside, I'm moving my body. I'm going to wear my weighted vest and go for a nice hike. and really just being intentional about how I choose to feel. That's what I'm doing.
It is. How do I choose to feel? The Tony Robbins exercise I've been doing, granted, I haven't done it for the last 2 days, but the first thing out of the 7 things you say when you first wake up in the morning, the very first one is, "I choose to be happy today."
Mhm.
And again, it's choice. And like you said, it's seductive to get into that. Are things ever gonna get better? I mean, I was telling Kate, I was on my paddle board. I clipped the anchor in. Clipped it in. It was one day I was exhausted from these getting to start trying these dabbling in these new workouts, and I had nothing left by Friday. I said, "I'm just gonna go." I literally paddled 10 minutes, and I anchored down. I wanted to kick back, but the cloudy weather was still warm, and I know I clipped that anchor to my paddleboard, and I woke up on the other side of the lake. Like, whole anchor gone, and I thought, "Now I have to paddle all the way back over there again," and then the wind would come, and then I had to paddle again, and I just laughed about it. I thought I could either be pissed off, like, "Oh my god, I lost an anchor," but I sat out there for the next 20 minutes trying to find another anchor on Amazon, but just laughed like, "How does an anchor disappear?" I was more worried about a snake coming on my paddleboard because I know they're sighting them in the water in different lakes. And so that was like my fear was, what if I wake up and there's a king snake like staring at me right on my board?
Oh
But
my
no, I
god.
just wake up because I floated across the lake. So it's just kind of funny that you choose. I could choose to be pissed off or I could choose to just go, you can't make this up. And the
Yeah.
more you think like when things happen like that, it's like you can't make it up. You have to laugh.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
thing, one more quick thing before we go that I put out there, put on a video of people laughing. Like, just all out laughing. There's stuff all over Facebook, Instagram of people laughing, kids laughing. It is proven, again, scientifically to be contagious. If you're in a funk, you're like, "Well, I don't wanna laugh." Force yourself. Put put on videos of people or, like, pets, whatever, but people laughing, babies laughing. You cannot help yourself.
Yeah.
It will, like, legit flip you.
Such a good
Choices.
tip. You know what? Actually, I must have had an intuition to do that because ever since I've had kids, I have in my voice memos, I've recorded them laughing in different experiences, and I've got they're bigger now, they're almost 12 years old and 9, but I have this audio recording of them laughing in the backseat of the car when they're both, like, toddlers, and it's that cute baby laugh, and I've recorded it as they've gotten older and their laughter has changed, and
Mhm.
it sparks joy, it also sparks love because they're people who I invest so much in, they're people who I care and love,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so hearing their laughter not only brings happiness into me, but it also floods my body with that warmth, that oxytocin, all of the connection hormones
Yep.
that
Yep.
laughter.
The
So,
happy rush.
it's a good suggestion. Definitely listen to people
Yeah, I
laughing.
watched a video. A guy did an experiment. So he had his friend film him. And he just walked into this group of people. And I can't remember if they were waiting for a train, a bus, or what it was, but he just walks. They're all just sitting there on their phones, like everybody is anymore. And he just stands there and just starts laughing, like belly laughs. And at first they're like looking at him. And then they couldn't help but start laughing too. Nobody was left on their phone, like, everybody, and you could just see, like, this whole vibration around them just elevated, and I thought that was just a really cool experiment where he just stood maybe it's an elevator, I can't remember my mind today, but it was just a fun like, "Why is he doing this?" And then I caught myself laughing too, and so it's, again, super contagious, so let's move towards the things that are contagious and not contagion, right? Like, good contagious stuff, but, fabulous conversation. Yeah. So everybody, share this, share this, share this. The world needs more love, more happy. Let's find the joy in life every day because no matter what your situation is, there's always something to be grateful for. And look inside you. Try some new things and bring out your happiest. So thank you for listening. Get out there, subscribe to our podcast, get on the email list so you're the first to know when new podcasts are coming out and what we're doing because people, we have some kick-ass people lined up to record. And we're going to have thyroid, sleep specialist, heart rate variability and vagus nerve. Oh my gosh, we've got some good stuff coming up. And then, of course, the two of us. So stay tuned, subscribe, hit our like button, share this podcast so we can get the word out there about personalized health, radiant life, and how important it is to be your most authentic self. So get out there, make it a great day, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, we'd love for you to share it, leave a review or comment, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Help us get this information out to everyone who could benefit, and we'll keep bringing you the content you crave.
You can also check out our podcast site at everydayepigenetics.co and sign up for our newsletter to stay updated on upcoming episodes. The link is in the show notes.
If you're interested in DNA or epigenetic coaching with Susan, or Radiant Life Coaching for deep inner work with Kate, our contact info is in the show notes below.
Now go and make it a great day and let your most authentic self shine.